from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, folks, good morning. Happy Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, the last day of the month of June. I hope you're having an unbelievable summer. Welcome to the Practitioner Brief, where we're going to talk about risk, impact, and mitigation of the latest cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities that are within our organizations, here to help you navigate that as well. Happy Hump Day. Good morning. Good morning as well. LinkedIn users here, and for whatever reason, I am having an issue seeing names this morning, so I do apologize for not calling it out for what it is. Give me just a moment here, and I should be able to get it here in just a moment. So anyways, this is Heather and John. Good morning, folks, and thank you so much for joining us. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're not following the CyberHub podcast, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, if you're not subscribed to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform, please make sure to do so right now. Tonight, Tucktown Square, 8 p.m., we're going to be talking about, can blockchain fix the truth? A very, very interesting discussion tonight. We're going to talk a little bit technology. We're going to talk a little bit news media, a little bit of what is truth, and it's bound to be an engaging discussion. We'll start at 8 p.m. right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for the Tucktown Square. And then at 9 p.m., we move to Clubhouse for an after show where everyone comes on stage and we just have an awesome discussion. So if you want to be part of that, make sure to tune in for that as well. Now, before we do that, shout out to our supporters, TiVo, Wistic, and KnowBe4 for their support of the show. And like John, Heather, and so many others, I need to start my morning with a good cup of coffee, my double espresso. I hope you'll join me here as we rummage through 5 different stories today that we've got to cover on the show. Cheers. All right, let's get right into what's going on. SolarWinds is not over. I know people have stopped saying SolarWinds. Colonial is the hottest ticket in town, but it's now come to light that Russian state threat actors compromised Denmark's central bank and planted malware that gave them access to the network for more than half a year without any detection. The SolarWinds espionage campaign was attributed to the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service and commonly referred to as APT-29, or I'm going to call him Cozy Bear. Okay? That's the name. There's 3 names here. Let's pick one. I pick Cozy Bear. It's easier for me to say. You know, we know that the Russians are bears and so forth. So here we go. The compromise came to light after a technology publication, version 2, obtained official documents from the Danish central bank through a Freedom of Information request. The campaign, which is considered to be one of the most sophisticated in recent histories, is now, one could say, on the tail end of it, but the fallout is still going to be there. Here's one of the aspects of this one. If we go through the whole story, I'll give you the short version of it, right? Nothing was seen to be compromised. No data was taken. Apparently, no money was transferred. So what were the Russians doing in the Danish central bank system for 6 months undetected? They weren't just there. We know from SolarWinds that they installed malware and backdoors everywhere they thought they could get their hands on it. So to me, this is very, very interesting. It goes to show you just that sometimes I don't necessarily need you. I don't target you necessarily in order to, I'm going to target you to get to someone else, is what I mean. So Heather does not do caffeine. You'll cheers through waters. I'll cheer to water as well. Morning to Matt. Thank you for joining us, good sir. And so what did they want from the Danish central bank still remains to be seen, but the Russians just don't randomly do this. And this is going to have significant implications. Part of it could be economical, by the way. Denmark has a drove of natural resources that compete with Russia's, and the idea of looking at their fiscal policy, of looking at what the central bank is trying to do, especially when it comes to currency. Denmark, even though part of the EU, has not adopted the euro. They still use the Danish kroner as a currency. It's there are some geopolitical impacts to this that I think we're not going to see now, but 3-4 years down the road, this will be one of the reasons for it. Russia plays the long game when it comes to that. We'll move to our next story, where Google's working on patching a Google Cloud vulnerability that allows for a VM disk takeover. The researcher Amari Rod detained his finding in a post made public last week on GitHub. The issue was reported to Google in late September of 2020 and confirmed by Google itself. Rad decided to disclose the vulnerability due to Google's failure to fix the issue and provide information on its progress. According to the researcher, the issue affects Google's compute engine, which enables users to create and run VMs on Google's infrastructure, and it's related to the Internet System Consortium, DHCP software. Rad said that while the ISC could make some improvements to its product, the vulnerability actually exists due to how the DHCP software is used by Google. The security hole exists due to weak random numbers used by the ISC DHCP software, an unfortunate combination of additional factors. The vulnerability can be exploited by an attacker to gain full root access to the targeted VM by sending a specially crafted DHCP packet. By taking over a VM, I mean getting full root access to the VM and thus accessing all the content service functionality hosted there, data stored locally on the VM. Also, by getting into a VM, an attacker would also get access to all the Google services, so the Cloud SQL and so many more. The service account that's assigned to the VM has permissions to, and much, much more. There's 3 different possible attack scenarios, and the ones that are most likely to actually be exploited by malicious actors require the attacker to be on the same sub-network, but that's never stopped an attacker in the past. So we see that as well. This specific one, if you're on Google Cloud, Google has said that they're still working on a patch, but there's some workarounds. They've addressed it internally through, through several updates. So with that being said, that should be able to take care of it. He reported in September. It's June. He waited 9 months. I can understand the frustration of the researcher, but at the same time, folks, here's one thing. Patching is difficult. Looking at every patch, this may seem really dangerous for some people, but for Google itself or for a lot of its customers, it may not be. And so with that being said, we'll take that at face value. If you are on Google, there are some workarounds that are available. All the links to all the stories are available in the show notes, so go check them out. Good morning from Jonathan, and good morning to Rob. Thank you for joining us this morning, folks. I want to move to this next story. This story was, I wanted to lead with this, but I kind of like to leave it right to the middle. So gamers. Microsoft has been once again hit by a dependency hijacking attack targeting the Halo servers within Microsoft. So significant here, and let's have this conversation. So earlier this week, we talked about PlayStation 3. We've talked about all these different games. And now we're seeing Halo, one of the world's most popular games, have a dependency hijacking issue on the Halo game dev servers. The Swift Search dependency, which was highlighted last week by researcher Ricardo Iramar dos Santos, was auditing an open source package, Symphony Electron for Bugs, which is when he came across a mysterious dependency used by the package. This dependency was called Swift Search, but this package wasn't present on the public npm.js.com registry. When he realized this, Dos Santos registered a package by the same name on the npm registry with this custom code. Bleeping Computer's former articles on dependency confusion explained that the term represents an inherent weakness in various open source repository managers when it comes to retrieving dependencies specified for a software package. So this allows essentially the ability to get in through gaming softwares into machines, and it can capture a lot of different things. So for example, the code contained in Dos Santos's packages, accesses sensitive parameters from a system vulnerable to dependency confusion, and uploads these to the researcher's POC server. It includes system host name and account username, environment variables, OS name and version information, system's public IP addresses, host file, password file, and shadow file. Within hours of publishing the package to the NPM registry, they were already receiving pingbacks from Microsoft's servers. They were able to present them with an SSL certificate listing Microsoft as the organization with the common name. The domain HaloWaypoint.com represents the Halo video game series published by Microsoft's Xbox Game Studio. Some of the data returned from Microsoft server includes system username, path to application development environment, and various IDs, and so much more. So now you go, James, why do I care? So if you're a security practitioner, like many of us who are watching and listening are, a lot of our team and a lot of people within our organization play video games. And guess what? Threat actors know that. So if I can target someone through their video game and get access and move laterally within their home network, within their gaming network, I can get passwords, which helps me in a password spraying account. I can get access to networks, which I wouldn't have otherwise. If we look at the previous GCP vulnerability, I need to get on the same subnetwork. Well, what if the person playing Halo is on that subnetwork? And this is significant threat because now we got to look at awareness, not only from a phishing perspective, but also from a gaming perspective. And that's not something we think about very often. It's not something we talk about because we're so worried about that email. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be, but now they're targeting gaming. And guess who games, folks? A lot of people in DevOps, a lot of people in engineering, a lot of people in architecture. So some of these people have the keys to the kingdom per se, and they have access, meaning this allows them to go in. If you think that the ransomware attacks that are going on now where they're encrypting data, imagine encrypting code for a new version you're working on, encrypting an entire repository, essentially hijacking your business, not just from a data perspective, but from a software operations perspective, because that's where they're headed. All the Skittles on the road lead to that attack vector, because that's the most devastating attack vector. That's where companies are going to pay up quickly because that's their investment. That's their intellectual property. That's the cyber business operations aspect of security. If we sleep on this, we're going to wake up one morning and it's going to be really, really bad. Let's get to some comments. Good morning to Igor. Joel says, the only game I play Halo and can't even trust it. Yeah, buddy. Welcome. I've been playing this new game called Metasploit. Love it, Matt. Thank you so much. Happy hump day to everyone from the awesome James McQuiggan. And John Dela Cruz says, threat actors are getting really creative, coming at it from a different angle. Yes, they are. And John, as a retired person from the military, how many people do we know in service that play video games? Let that hover, let that sit, digest that, and they play them on bases. Keep that in mind. There's more to this from a national security perspective. All right, we'll wrap up with two awesome stories where the good guys are prevailing, and we'll end on a good note. So the VPN service that's used by ransomware criminals is now taken down by the Dutch National Police with Europol, FBI, and the UK National Crime Agency. Double VPN, which was advertising its VPN services on the dark web to ransomware gangs and phishing operations, is now kaput. Now, undoubtedly, someone else will rise in its place, but for now, we've disrupted them just a little bit, delaying attacks and allowing us maybe a little bit more time to patch, a little bit more time to train our people, and a little bit more time to harden our environments. So a job well done by these hard-working law enforcement agents. And Colombia catches a threat actor wanted in the US for the Gozi virus. The Gozi virus, for a lot of you, if you haven't been in cyber for very long, was from 2007 to 2012. It's 2021, and you go, James, what is this all about? Folks, this is called deterrence. You may be able to do this, but one day you're going to get on a plane and you're going to go to Colombia, and you're going to get arrested, and you're going to leave from Colombia to New York because that's where you're wanted. and the long arm of the law never rests. You cannot escape it for the crimes you've made. The Romanian Mihai Unat, I don't know how to say his last name, faces computer intrusion and banking fraud charges in New York. He's also infected computers in at least 8 other countries, including the US, Germany, Finland, and the UK. Also, some computers belonged to NASA at the time. The virus creator, Nikita Kuzmin, was sentenced to 37 months in prison, was fined $7 million following the plea deal. The Latvian programmer who helped design the virus also received a 21-month prison sentence after being extradited to the U.S. Paunseca, who was arrested in Romania in 2012, but was able to avoid extradition, decided to take a trip to Bogota, where he was arrested, sporting a big, thick beard and wearing a red t-shirt. Love the detail on the arrest. That's it for our practitioner brief this morning, folks. Some final comments here. Heather says, I love thinking like a threat actor. Me too. You got to think like a threat actor if you want to harden your defenses. Otherwise, you're always playing catch up. That's why I like the defend framework. I think it's relevant for so many people in our industry who need that thought process. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., we'll wrap up this week right here. It's 4th of July weekend. So tomorrow I'm posting a special CISO Talk episode with my friends over at GitLab. We're going to talk a little bit about securing your code. It's not a traditional CISO Talk. It's what we need to know as CISOs from researchers who sometimes it's a frank conversation. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be really good. That'll be up tomorrow, 4th of July weekend. So Friday, I won't be live. And then Monday next week, we'll be off for 4th of July weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday. I'll have more on that tomorrow. But tonight, Tech Town Square, 8 p.m., myself and Eddie, we're going to talk about, can blockchain help us figure out the truth? People say blockchain can do a lot of things. That'll be our discussion tonight. So make sure to tune in right here at 8 p.m. And then at 9 p.m., we'll be on Clubhouse. So you can go to Clubhouse, find the CISO Talk Club, and you'll see the Tech Town Square there. You can tune in 9 p.m., come on stage, join us for the discussion. Eddie and I will get started right here for you folks. So a lot to talk about. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and stay cyber safe. And Matt says, I will be there. Matt, excited for tonight's discussion. I've got a lot of stuff planned for tonight. So see you there. Until then, folks, stay cyber safe. Cheers.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.